Thanks for coming, and we're gonna do a ton today. So hopefully it won't be too much. A lot of this is based on this online book that I wrote called The JavaScripting English Major, which is just a 15 session course that teaches JavaScript. Hopefully it teaches it in a way that people in the humanities can use and can feel comfortable about programming. And it's dedicated to inclusivity and to teaching you what you actually need to know, not what you typically learn to become a computer scientist. But one of the reasons JavaScript is really important to learn, I think, is because we think of, and this came up a little bit when we were talking about plain text, but we think about when we work that we have a document, at least in English, in my field. You have a document, and that's where everything goes. You just write your document, and you just write and write and write and write, and there ends up being one file that you have to back up. And then it ends up having different names like chapter 1.doc, then chapter 1 revisions.doc, then chapter 1 revisions final.doc, then chapter 1 revisions final no for real final.doc, then chapter 1 blah blah, and just so on and so on. But the idea is that you just have the one document, right? Yeah, and then it ends up in the trash. But that's what you keep track of with backups and things like that. Now, web pages don't work like that. Even though we talk about a web page, and this is a web page, it's typically not just one file, the way it is in the way a Word document is. It's actually typically made up of several files that are all interacting in order to create something on the web. So you have a regular web page, and it's made up of at least 3 components. So I call this the nouns, adjectives, and verbs. It's not perfect, but it sort of works. The HTML, which is the hypertext markup language, is the nouns, because it more or less describes the stuff that's in the page, right, and handles a bunch of the layout and things like that. CSS, cascading style sheets, is the adjectives, which tells the browser what color things should be, what font to use, that sort of stuff. Excuse me. And JavaScript, is the verbs. Everything that happens on the web page happens because of JavaScript. When you click on a button and that button means that you like a post on Facebook, that's JavaScript working, not HTML, not anything else. Okay? So we'll continue now by going to the GitHub link I emailed you last night. So in case you didn't have, well, let me do this all through. I don't think you're on the thing because I was using David's distribution list, and yeah. So if you didn't get it, well, that's okay. Just go to github.com. Is
anyone missing it?
Here, well, I'll walk through going to it right now. So go to github.com and then do sign in. Hopefully you made a login already, and then log in. And then you go to, you're not going to probably be able to see it in the location bar, but add this to the end of github.com. So github.com/muzeus, MUZIEJUS, /leaflet-quickstart. Okay? And when you, and you should see this. And I'll give a second for people to catch up. Okay, everyone's cool? Not yet? All right. Well, everyone has to do this step, otherwise you will be behind for the rest of the thing. So I have to wait for everyone to do it. Okay. So one thing we're going to do here is, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, this is the project I made. So you are all going to make your own versions of this project, okay? So the first way you do that is by forking it. So you click on this fork button. You have to log in to GitHub.
I'm logged in.
You sure?
Oh, yes, sorry, I was just down.
Okay, so you just click fork. And now if you look, you'll see that the URL has changed. It's no longer Mosaeus/Leaflet quick start. It's now Moa Demo. This is my fake account that I use for demos. It's now Moa Demo/Leaflet quick start. Okay, so yours should now have your username/Leaflet quick start. Yes. So you forked it. So now you should have your own version of it, right? On your own account. And so this is kind of exciting because now you're starting to be a programmer. And so I'm going to talk about what all these files are really quickly. So the ESLint RC file is just a file that tells that will eventually tell Atom what kind of style we want to write JavaScript in. You can ignore it for now. The README is just this stuff down here. This is the README file. All this stuff that explains how to do stuff, blah, 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 blah. Then body.md is just a bunch of lorem ipsum text. Okay, we'll worry about that later.
Can you explain us these extensions?
Oh, sure.
YML, MD.
Yes, okay, yeah, no problem, thank you. So YML is yet another markup language, and is it's just a way of putting together data in a structured format that a program can then read. So this creates an object that has an env property, an extends property, a parser options property, et cetera, and this is just a data format. Then MD is Markdown. So I will show what that is because that's a little bit important. Who's worked with Markdown before? Ooh, okay. Markdown is great because it's an easy way to write HTML without having to deal with all the little brackets. So here's what HTML normally looks like. Like it's not very pretty, you know. So yeah, this is not a lot of fun to write. So Markdown lets you has a syntax that's very similar to the syntax that you probably use already in your SMSs or on online chat to create similar things. Like to write bold and italics, you just put stuff in stars, like just like you do in chat, right?
WhatsApp it works too.
Oh, and WhatsApp, yeah.
You want bold, you put asterisks around.
Yeah, 2 asterisks, yeah. And then so Markdown, on the other hand, so this is the README Markdown. It's formatted, and you see there's like a link, a handsome list, a title, a slightly smaller title, a handsome list with numbers, all this sort of stuff. This is formatted by the browser, by GitHub, and when it's raw, so this is what I actually typed.
Okay.
So this is the syntax. So like one £sign means big title. 2 pound signs means slightly smaller title, right? And then I just have to do 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, and it automatically numbers the list for me. And I can just do star, space, blah, blah, blah to make a bullet point list. And a link, I just write the text of the link inside the brackets, and then the square brackets, and then write the URL that it points to in parentheses. That's it. So it's a very easy way to write content, because writing content in HTML is obnoxious. So, okay. So this body.md is just a Markdown file with this lorem ipsum text. But you can see it has a link here, and then it says lorem ipsum here, and then it has another link to the Wikipedia lorem ipsum page. It doesn't matter. Lorem ipsum is just garbage text that you put in to take up space, to sort of imagine what it'll look like when there's actually real text there. And you'll see what we're doing with this a little bit later. Okay, then let's skip the Parse ARR GeoJSON for the time being, and then let's click. Well, yeah, let's skip that for now, and let's click at places.csv. Does anybody remember what a .csv file is?
Comma-separated values.
Comma-separated values. So it's basically and you can see here, this looks like an Excel spreadsheet, right? So GitHub automatically takes the CSV and formats it pretty like this, just like it does with the Markdown file. But this is really like what I typed was just this. So everything that is between commas, so nom, latitude, longitude, type, lien, become cells. Nom, latitude, longitude, type, lien. Okay?
And what is blame for? Like blame.
What's that?
Blame. You have war,
Blame.
blame and history.
Oh, blame. Oh, we'll get to blame later. Blame is a way of figuring out. So the power of GitHub is that it's a great way to collaborate. And so blame, what happens is it says who's responsible for which changes. So you know whom to blame when it breaks. At least that's how I tell myself. So this is the data that we're going to start mapping. So these are, there's a name, then there's a latitude and a longitude, then a type. I picked 3 types, bâtiment universitaire, restaurant mexicain, and librairie, okay? And then I got a link for all these places too, all right? Then scripts.js is a JavaScript file. And everything is commented out right now. So Alex taught us one kind of commenting in his demo, but in JavaScript, comments are made with these 2 slashes. So everything following 2 slashes in JavaScript on that line is commented out, which means it's ignored by the computer. So that's where you can put in information that's valuable to humans, but not to the computer. And then also, slightly, you can comment out a bunch at once by doing the /* to open it and /* to close it. So everything right now is commented out in this JavaScript file. It doesn't do anything. Okay? And then lastly, we won't get into a lot of detail on this. This is just a GeoJSON file I made using the data from 2 days ago of just all the arrondissements. Okay? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. GeoJSON is a format similar to a shapefile, except it's only one document, and it is eminently readable by web browsers because it's just JavaScript. Okay. All right. So that's all these files. Now you have them too. But now let's do one more thing on the website. Click on Settings, and scroll down to GitHub Pages. Okay. And then click on this None and pick Master Branch instead, and click Save.
When you said master branch, you just mean the first one, not the docs folder.
The first one, Master Branch. And then it'll say your site, then it'll knock you back up to the top of the page, but scroll back down, and it'll say your site is ready to be published at https your username, whatever it is, .github.io/leaflet-quickstart. So if we click there, this is what you should have.
I have 4.
It may take a second.
Okay.
Let's see this. It's completely blank and boring. All right. It does something cool if you click on these arrows. This goes up and down, so that's fun. But that's JavaScript. But no content at all. So now go back here to the GitHub Pages thing and zoom all the way up to the top, and click back on Code. Okay. I just clicked back on Code. You can probably just hit the back button a couple times. So it just should say Code. It should look like this. Okay. Now we're done with GitHub for now. We have one more thing to do, and then we'll be done with GitHub for the time being. So we copy, click on the clone or download button, and copy what you get here. It should be HTTPS blah, 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 blah. And just copy it and hold it in the clipboard. All right. Now, you should open up Atom. Okay, this is Atom. It doesn't look like it, but it is. What's that? You can use whatever you want, but it's going to be a whole lot easier to use Atom, just because the workflow is rigged up with Atom. In a second. Okay, so in Atom, you type Command on a Mac. You type Command Shift P. Command is the button next to spacebar, and on Windows you type Control Shift P, and this should show up. This is called the command palette. Now, one thing Atom is great at is it has this command palette. So whenever you want to do something, you don't remember how to do it, you just type Control Shift P or Command Shift P, and you type in the command in here, and it'll tell you, it'll execute the command for you. Wow. So you don't have to remember what menu stuff is in or anything like that. Okay? Yes. And then in here, type clone, and you should see this thing called GitHub clone. Okay, click on that. And then jot down on a piece of paper what it says here to directory. Jot down what it says, or remember it. And then paste in that URL in the top field. So it should look like this, that you copied from GitHub. So yours should look exactly like this, except where I have Moa demo, you'll have something else. So what this does is this is going to pull all of the files that are on your GitHub thing, all those 7 files. It's going to create a folder on your computer with those files in it. Okay? So you just paste it in. Everybody's doing well so far? Okay, great. And then you click clone. And then it thinks, and you should have this. You probably won't have these pretty icons, but we can take care of that in a second. Okay, but you should have a project palette open up like this. Yeah, there's welcome stuff. You can close all that welcome stuff if you want. But keep this project thing open. So you should see this project thing. And again, you see it's all the same files that we had. Okay, you were going to say something?
Well, one of the things that's nice about the way that you have Atom displayed is that it's sort of keeping the data to the size of the window that you have. Mm-hmm. On our screens, it's all going completely off.
Okay. Well, all right. So now that we have this here, let's do a little bit of, let's take about 5 to 10 minutes to install some stuff. All right. So open up the settings by typing Command, comma, or Control, comma. I think it's Control, comma on PC. Can someone confirm? Yes, Control, comma. Okay. So under Core Settings, you keep the core settings as they are. Then click on Editor quickly. Okay, so for Editor, you want to, here's where you can change the font. You can change the font size. I know a guy who, he does literature studies, so he in his Atom, he has it set to a pretty font, so it looks like text already. But if you scroll, here you'll have soft wrap.
What is the wrap?
So when you click soft wrap, the line won't just keep going on anymore. It'll wrap it to the window width.
I mean, you won't have
in Editor.
Do you need to save that, or it's fine?
No, you just click and then you're good to go. All right. But let's install some packages. So at the bottom, click on Install. At the bottom of Settings, so you have Core Editor, etc., and then at the bottom you have Install. And the first one, just type ESLint and return. And pick this thing called Linter-ESLint. I have it already installed, but you can just click Install, and it'll take a little bit of time.
What is it?
ESLint is, ES stands for ECMAScript, which is the real name of JavaScript. And what it is, a linter is a program that looks at your code and tells you ahead of time if you're making mistakes. So it can be picky, and it can be a school marm too. It can be very angry about it. So this file, it'll ask to also install the regular linter. So just say OK to everything. Yeah. So if you click on install for Linter-ESLint, it'll say, do you want to install all these other things? And you can say yes. That's fine. So
it's the first?
no, not the first one. Not ESLint deprecated. Linter-ESLint is the one you want to install.
Okay, maybe just take a while.
Yeah, it will take some time. Okay. So then hopefully this will work. So this is what this file does. This is a set of rules for JavaScript. So for example, it says that if there is if you're using single quotes in your JavaScript instead of double quotes, it'll say you have made a mistake. Even though in JavaScript both are fine. But this is just to encourage a continuity of style. Or semicolons. You don't have to actually put the semicolon at the end of a JavaScript statement, but that's typically considered to be bad syntax. So it encourages doing that, all right? And then also there's a couple global variables. You don't really have to worry about this, but this is just a set of rules that are very picky that it will complain at us if we break them. And that's useful because when you make a mistake, it'll notice it and fix it for you, hopefully. Okay? So have you gotten more or less towards, okay, so it's still installing? Okay, yeah, it will take a little bit. All right, so in the meantime, I'll talk about what Git is. So the way that your computer, so now you have a local version of this Leaflet quick start thing on your computer. Like it's on your computer and it's also on GitHub, all right? Now, the way that they stay in sync, it's not like Dropbox or something like that that just like somehow magically syncs things. In Git, so GitHub uses a program called Git in order to keep things in sync. And the way Git works is you make a bunch of changes, and then when you've made an amount of changes that make some kind of logical sense, and that could be anywhere from adding a new feature or just fixing a typo, but whenever you get to something that just makes sense, then you save it, you stage the files, and then you commit them. And what a commit is it's just a milestone, right? A bon that's a marker of the project at that state. And it's like in a video game where you cross a certain point, and then if you die, you start from that point. So that's exactly the same thing that Git does. It's a sort of time machine. And it keeps track of all those bons. So you can move back in time if you want. So it's kind of a backup system in this way too, right? But you have to commit. And then when you're done committing, you push. And push is, it pushes it to GitHub or to wherever. But for us, it's GitHub. So that then GitHub will have a copy of all the changes that you've made. And it'll be in sync with what's on your computer.
What does sync mean?
Lined up, synchronisé.
Okay.
So the idea is the way that this builds. There are two things going on here that are different to what we're used to. So we're used to, like again, that Microsoft Word document that gets like stupider and stupider endings as it goes from final, no really final, no really, really, really final, et cetera, and you just end up with a bunch of different files. In Git, you only have the one file ever, and you just add commits to it, and then those are the changes, and then you can just scroll back at any time and see what chapter 1 was, and then chapter 1 for real, and chapter 1 for real, no for real, et cetera, okay?
Even though that you edited it with new copies, it will show you what that copy was.
So you can go back to any commit that you made, all right? So it's not quite like infinite undo, because it only takes you to places where you committed.
When you decided that you wanted to commit.
Yeah, when you're like, so typically I will, when I'm writing text, I'll commit at the end of a paragraph or at the end of the day or something like that.
So you write your articles on GitHub?
Yeah. So it's a 4-step process: save, stage, commit, push. Save, and each one you do less frequently. So you save constantly, and we'll see how easy it is to save constantly in Atom. Then you stage a little bit less frequently. Stage just means this file is ready to be committed. And then you commit less frequently than you stage. And then you push less frequently than you commit. Because push is just send this off to GitHub. Okay? Yeah, it packages it up and pushes it. Okay, ça marche. All right, so has your linter installed? Okay, great. So let's install one other package if you want to, file icons. So just do a search for file icons. And that's this, you'll get these cute little icons. You can skip this if you don't want the cute icons, but I like them. No, I think you can only install one package at once. If we did this through the command line, we could probably do multiple at the same time, but I want to use the command line as little as possible in this workshop. Okay? On it may, yeah, okay, so it may just not work on Windows because ESLint may not be ported to Windows. So if it fails on, I mean, it's okay. It's a syntax, you know, it's not that big a deal. So no, you don't need it. No, it's just a linter.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so hopefully file icons is installing pretty quickly. And then we'll go to, and then click on packages when you're done. So we were on install, and now we're on packages. I wish, the only reason I wish I had a Windows computer, well, there are two reasons I wish I had a Windows computer. One is so I could play Fortnite, and one is so that I could, because Fortnite's terrible on my Mac, and the other is so that I could practice these demos on a Windows computer. I have an XP installation on this computer, but Atom doesn't run on XP, so I can't use it. Yeah, I probably really don't want it to. So Atom is a really interesting text editor because Atom is actually just a web browser. So what it does is it spins up a little web server on your computer and opens up the Chrome browser. So all of this is actually just the Chrome browser. Just, it's called Atom. That's all. Okay, so if you have, if you get to here to packages, you want to type in autosave. I know, but we'll okay, well then let's start up the browser in the meantime, or start up the server in the meantime. So open up your terminal, please. And
Looks like Atari.
yeah, then except with like outrageously sharp text. So then type for Mac, just type cd git tab le tab, just like that on Mac. All right, so so now that you're here, this is the only thing that we're going to have to do in the oops. No, I didn't. So this is the only thing that we're going to have to do in on the command line today. Okay. Again, mine looks fancy, but don't worry about it. And so here on Mac, type Python 3 space dash capital V, like that. No. This is just my prompt. You can ignore all of that. Just the stuff that's in gray. This is all just. Yeah. Then on so return, and then on a new line type Python 3 dash V, and return. Python 3 space hyphen capital V. On Windows, do py space slash capital V. Just py. For Windows, it's py. Yeah. Space hyphen capital V, and it worked, and you got something like 3.65. Yeah, you did. Okay, so Sarah, you didn't do a. You did a lowercase v. So you're in trouble. You have to do. So basically, what you have to do now is. So you have to type this: quit with open close parentheses, and then return.
And for PC?
For PC, you type that. So then on Mac, you do this. And on Windows, it's the exact same thing, except instead of Python 3, you just type py. So py or Python 3 space dash little m space http.server space 8888. Anybody know what this does?
It's calling a port. I don't know.
That's definitely part of it. Anything else? So this is the easiest way to create a web server to spin up a web server on your computer. Even though installing Python is a pain, this is still the easiest way. Well, Macs come with it built in, but this is the easiest way to spin up a server. So when you hit return, you should get this serving HTTP on 00000 port 88888. Yes. Okay. Did it work?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Now, go back to your browser and open up localhost :8888. Okay? Localhost means this computer. All right? And when you click return, you should get something that looks a lot like what we saw earlier. So now your computer is running as a server and is running as a web server. The only person that can connect to it is you. But it's a good way to test things. So this is a little bit like what OpenRefine does, or what Atom is doing too, right? But this is a little server spins up on port 888 that you can control. Okay? Okay. All right. So now that we've got all this done, all the setup takes up an hour of the 2.5, of course. Now we're ready to do some fun. Okay. So autosave. So in Atom, enable autosave. Autosave is disabled by default on Atom. I have theories on why that is, but most of us are used to, I imagine, something like Word that's constantly saving. So go to Packages, and then type in autosave in installed packages, and it'll have this core packages autosave, and then you click on Settings, and then just do enabled, and that's it. You just tick enabled.
That's something I can do now.
Yes. And then also under packages, if you got the linter to install correctly, type in ESLint, and then click on settings. So it's the same exact thing, except instead of autosave, now you type ESLint, and click on settings. And then you'll have this thing, fix errors on save. Tick that. So I started talking about Git. So I described the whole save stage commit push, SSCP, Soviet Socialist Communist Party, as a means by which you get this workflow, right? The other thing Git is great at is that it provides, and this is where the question of, well, why do you use plain text? Like, that's insane. Microsoft Word is the greatest program in the world. Like, no one actually thinks that. But what part of the plain text lifestyle and the Git lifestyle is that you stop thinking in terms of documents and start thinking in terms of projects. Because if you have a project, you know you have a bunch of stuff distributed everywhere. You have a file with data in it. You have a file with content in it. You have a picture. You have a this. You have a that. You know? And so Git is a means by which, so the Git genius of the time machine and all of that sits in this hidden folder called .git at the folder level. So when you clone the project, you created a folder, and all your stuff for that project is now in that folder forever. And it's a means by which you can then control you think about it as a project. So all right, so you did the thing here with fix errors on save, and now I think that's all the settings.
I'm
Yes.
noticing something on the terminal. It's still showing like 404.
Where?
Now it's showing it in the terminal. It's showing like when I was connecting to the server.
Yes. So it's going to 404
Oh, okay.
because it's looking for the favorite icon image.
Okay.
So I'll show you what that looks like. So if you open up the web page on the terminal, it'll say 404. So here it gave it successfully loaded these files, but there are files that it didn't load. So okay. All right, now let's have fun with JavaScript. Okay, so step 1 is to scroll to line 24 and hit backspace twice, and it should light up like this for you.
Scripts.
Scripts.js.
Okay,
Yes,
line 24. Okay.
on line 24,
It's
the last file.
Why is it in color for you and for me?
I don't know. Yes, hit backspace twice to uncomment it. Do you have the 2 slashes in front?
Yes.
You get rid of the 2 slashes. You have to hit backspace twice, or 3 times.
Okay.
Okay? Now if you see there's a little red dot here, so it says there's a mistake. So and it underlines what the mistake is. So it says map is assigned a value but never used. So what this line does is it creates what we call a variable, but in this case it's a constant variable called map. Const map. Define a variable that's constant, that doesn't change, called map. And you create a couple things for it, right? This is just Leaflet boilerplate, all right? But what we're doing here is we're saying capital L is just shorthand for Leaflet. And Leaflet has a method or a function called map, so l.map. And that takes 2 parameters inside the parentheses. The first parameter is a place on the web page where it should put the map. And in this case, it's inside something called map div. So that's what I wrote there. The second parameter is an object, which has the curly braces, that has a property of zoom control, and that's false. Zoom control is whether the map will have the little pluses and minuses. And we're just setting it to false so it doesn't get in the way. Okay? So you don't have to worry too much about this, but this is all here. Then, okay, so you won't see any differences now anyway. So, okay, and then 27 and 28, delete them too. So they should light up. Okay, so constant, again, vanafhudon is the name of the constant, and it's a value, l.latlung, which is another method of leaflets to create a single point with coordinates inside angle brackets. So I know this is going super fast. This isn't entirely like a course on JavaScript, but one thing that you see is the important thing is that you see what this looks like, and you can then reproduce it on your own, something like it. Okay, so those are obviously coordinates in, well, not obviously, but they are coordinates in Paris. And then we also set the zoom level to 17. And it's still complaining because it's like we've named these parentheses or these variables, but we haven't ever used them. So then 2 more lines, 31 and 32. And now you should see those red dots disappear, because in line 31, we're finally using the map constant. And so we're finally using the map context, and it has a function inside of it called setView, and we're saying setView to the variable 29 and set the zoom level to the variable zoom level. And then we also provide a tile layer. So actually, if you keep it like this, but keep line 32 commented out, and then go over here and reload, it should go from white to gray. Okay, so the map, it draws on line 32. So L, again, is leaflet. tile layer, obviously make a layer with tiles in it. And provider, and then this is just the name of the tile set, Stamen Watercolor. This is a cute base map. It's not very technical or anything like that. You can use it if you want, or you can change it. So I'm going to change it because I'm not very cute. So I'm just going to use Stamen Toner instead. I'll be there in a second. And then when I reload, it looks different. So we're doing great. So now you've made a web map, and everything's fantastic. So let's get even cooler. So on line 41, this should start seeming like familiar stuff. Const, name a variable called Vent9 marker, and it's L leaflet has a marker function method that takes takes two parameters, but one required parameter, which is coordinates, and those coordinates are Vent9 that we set up there. It's just the same thing. I could have typed in those numbers in the brackets and everything, but I'm just reusing information that I already saved. Okay, so you do Vent9 dot add to map, so that it adds the marker to the map. Okay, and then if I save, it'll complain again. But if I reload, now you get a marker.
And why does it want even to complain?
Because so it's this mistake, Vent9 marker is assigned a value but never used, is not a syntax error, it's a style error. So it's saying you're writing sloppy code because you're defining things that you never use. So that's a waste of, so I have it configured to be really mean and be like, this is a mistake, fix it. Okay? So do you have markers now? All right. Going well. And now we can add a pop-up to it. So that's line 44. And this is just like we had map.setView. Map has a function attached to it called setView that lets us set the center and the zoom level. A marker has a method attached to it called bindPopup. And does anybody want to guess what bindPopup does? It attaches a pop-up to something else with information on it. Yes? No. Okay. And so our pop-up this is just boring HTML. So H3 is a third level title, and it says hello from 29 Hudon. Dune. Okay. So if we save and then reload, if you click on the marker, a pop-up should show up. And you can obviously change this text to whatever you want to, uncommented. But the point is just to show that when we created this L marker object, it inherits the property of it responds to bindPopup, to attach a pop-up to it. Okay? And as to Giovanni's question about images or whatever, yeah, sure. Let me quickly do something like that. Oops, that's over here. So let's grab this. That's a GIF, but okay. Copy video address. Oh, that's not going to work with video. No, I'm just picking a picture. Okay. This is always risky when I use Imager, but it could be something offensive, but that's kind of funny. Right. So now I'll just add here. You don't have to keep track of this, but this is just how you would do it. So now I add this bit of HTML, and then when I click here, click here and reload. Zoom, 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 zoom.
So the image will be in the pop-up?
And I click on the pop-up, here's that image. So, yeah, because my boss's wife has been missing for almost a month. He doesn't seem concerned, and I'm now afraid he did something to her. That poor bear.
That's really nice.
You can do also the embedded of the video, right?
Yeah, you can embed what. So the pop-up is just an HTML box that you can put whatever HTML you want to in it. So, for example, now comment out line 44 and instead uncomment 47 and 48. So this is now expert level stuff. So what we're doing here. So I just commented that out. Yes, so I suppressed it, but now I'm doing the same thing just slightly differently. So here I create this variable called MD, and all MD is a Markdown parser. And what that means is it takes Markdown and converts it into HTML, right? So now when I write Vendif marker.bind popup, I do MD, that MD dot render, and then I'm typing in Markdown here instead of clumsy HTML. I mean, this is still a little bit clumsy, but we'll see it work even better in a little bit. But this just shows you that you can put Markdown in, so you don't even have to write all the HTML and stuff if you don't want to.
And if you want to add an image, what do you do?
You would use the Markdown syntax to add an image, which is like exclamation point, open brackets, alt text, close brackets, open parentheses, image URL, close parentheses. So, but it's inefficient to do that here this way. This is a little bit of a hack, but it works. So now if you save and reload, oops, you get a link. Okay? All right. So now, this is all great, but I mean, this is a pain to do all of this stuff just for one point. You know, it seems like a bit of work. So I'm going to comment these back out because I don't want them anymore. And so I'll go back to just having a regular blank map. Okay, no more marker. Now things get crazy. So I hope you're ready.
Whoa, things are not already crazy.
No, the Markdown I think is a little bit fancy. I'm proud of myself for figuring out how to do that. But now things are gonna go off the chain. So delete line 61.
So we have commented out everything.
No. Just you don't even have to. You can keep this stuff uncommented. I just commented it out so that marker doesn't get in the way anymore. I just have a blank map. If you just have you can comment until you get a blank map, and then it's fine.
Okay.
And then delete the /* on line 61, and this D3 CV thing should light up. D3 CSV. Yes, you have to scroll down and delete the end of this comment on line 106. So this is, see how it says fatal? That means this is a real mistake. Yeah. This is a real mistake. This makes the page break, which is why you end up without even a map. Yeah.
So 106 goes as well.
Goes as well, right. Yeah, so now you should have this thing over here. And actually, if you go to line 62 or whatever, we're going to be a little bit out of sync now because some of you just deleted the characters, some of you deleted the lines. But if you go to the line that starts with d3.csv, you can actually click this and it'll close up the stuff. And so you see it goes from 62 to 105 is now bundled up, folded up into just 4 lines. That's useful. I just clicked on these little arrows next to the line numbers that folds things up.
Okay, I see. I get an error on line 78.
Yes, yeah, that error is going to stay, and we'll see why in a second. Okay, so D3, like David was saying, is extremely powerful and extremely complicated, and it's kind of funny that we're using it just to parse CSV. Like you can use D3, so if you go to like the New York Times and you see like the fancy web graphics that they have and like the charts that move and all that stuff, that's usually D3. And you can use D3 to do all that. It takes a lot in your head to sort of get used to what it actually does. But among the other things it has a CSV parser. So CSV is, of course, comma-separated values, just like we learned already.
What does D3 mean?
Data-driven documents.
And there are good basic manuals for doing D3 for kind of digital humanists. Right?
Not for digital humanists. Maybe I got a right one. Elijah, yeah, but it's Elijah's book is old, is I think the problem. I made a pretty well. We can talk about D3 later, but and I can show you something that D3 can do, but we're just using it to parse CSV. So what does that mean? So here we have d3.csv. So a D3 object has a method, a function attached to it called CSV, which is just short for grab a CSV file and do stuff to it. So it takes 3 parameters. The first parameter is the URL to the CSV file. But since our scripts.js is in the same folder as places.csv, we don't have to paste in the whole URL. Okay? And this is why you need to be running a local web server, because JavaScript actually doesn't have access to your computer. It only has access to things that are online. That's for safety purposes. So if you want to talk to files that are on your computer while you're doing testing, you have to run a local server. It just won't work otherwise. And that's for safety purposes. And as I've shown you, running your own server is not that tricky. It's 1 line of Python. Okay? So this says, grab the file called places CSV on our hard drive. It could be grab the file from http://ens.fr machin blah 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 .csv. You could do that too, like host it on an open repository or something like that. All that works fine too. But we're just looking at the copy that's local on our computer. All right? And then the first thing is we do something with the rows. So what it does is it goes to every row. And remember, the CSV had had places in it, and then they were they had a name, nom, latitude, longitude, type, and lien. Okay, so what it does is for every row, it takes that row and it creates a JavaScript object out of that. And all that means is that it's something that has properties. And so it takes the value in that row, data.nom, that value, and sets it as the property nom for an object. This is abstract, but it just makes it in a format that's easier for it to handle. Because then the next step, and by the way, this is all, luckily we all have new computers here, and newish and new browsers, because this is using a lot of cutting edge JavaScript syntax, just because I want to make things complicated for myself. So then the third thing is it runs a function about what do you do with that data once it's been handled, turned into these objects. So it creates a list. Every row becomes a member of this list of objects, right? And a list has a for each method attached to it. So it says take the list and for every single, and go through it. And for every single one, let's call that value at that time place. Okay, so set a variable called place, just an arbitrary variable. And then we say, does the place have a latitude property? If the place has a latitude property, then we can assume that it also has a longitude property and that therefore we can map it. So now this is slightly clumsy. Icon we'll worry about in a little bit. So we have let color, set a color variable. Let is what you use when the variable actually changes. And then we have the switch here. Does anybody know what a switch is? Or a case statement is? So it says, look at what this place's type is. All right? And depending on what the type value is, do something. So if the type value is bat univ, set the color variable to cc0000 and set icon to graduation cap. If the type is restmex, then set the color to this. These are HTML colors. Are you familiar? Well, maybe you're probably not familiar with them. So they're RGB colors where it's a hash, then 3 hexadecimal values. So And so it goes from 00 to FF, from 1 to 255 in normal people talk. And these are just ways to set colors. And we can, let's take a second to do a little, because you maybe want to change these colors. You know, you maybe think my colors are terrible. So you can just Google search HTML color picker. And, you know, pick whichever one you want, it doesn't matter.
This is a good way of matching exactly, because usually like institutions or
yeah, for branding
logos
type
and
stuff.
things like that, branding, they give you exactly the hex code that you need.
Exactly the purple, that's the NYU purple, for example. So here you can just scroll around here and just pick some fun color. And then this value here, the hex, is what you put next to the hashtag if you want to change. So here it's going to be, I'll spoil it for you, it's going to be red, green, and blue. Like slightly dark red, slightly dark green, slightly dark blue. But if you want to use pink and purple or yellow or other fun things, then you can just do a search for a color picker online, HTML color picker, and then all you have to do is you get these 6 things that's either a digit from 0 to 9 or letters A, B, C, D, E, or F. That's it, okay? And the bigger the number is, the closer it is to white. So FF, FF, FF is white. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 is black. So, and it's red, green, blue. So CC means a lot in the red channel and nothing in the other channels. So red. OO is nothing in the red channel, a lot in the green channel, and nothing in the blue channel. So green. And then the last one is blue because it's a lot in the blue channel and nothing in the red or green channels. Okay, so if plus type is librairie, then blah, 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 just like that. And then at the bottom here, we use not marker, but circle marker instead. And circle marker lets us set location. So we take, remember, we have this variable place, that's for every item in the CSV file, it gets to play the role of place at one time. And so it says create a marker with place.latitude, latitude, and place.longitude, if it has them, to plot it, and fill the color, fill in the circle with that variable called color. So now you should be able to see what will happen. This means that all the things that have a type batuniv are going to be red, or they're going to be red dots. And all the things that are restmex are going to be blue are going to be green dots, and all the things that are librairie are going to be blue dots, because color is reset every time through, because it says this row is now playing the role of place. What is the value for its place type? And then change the color depending on that, and it just does it every time for all of the rows. So, and then bind a pop-up, just like we already saw. And then this is string interpolation. So what this is, with the tick like that, the accent grave, or back tick as we say in English, that means that you're just typing regular text, but anything that has a $sign and then a brace is JavaScript inside of it. So we create this text, this long text thing here, and for href, so this is to make a link, we do place lien, to put that link text, you know, that URL that we saw in the CSV, to put that in here. So every single time it loops through, it'll create a pop-up with that row's value for lien there. And then do the same thing for nom, to create the name. And it's a pop-up, and then we add it to the map. So if you've done all this and saved and reloaded, you probably already have seen the show. Yes? Okay. So here's the show. You get these dots. But now you understand how these dots got here and why they're colored different things. And you click on one, you get a pretty pop-up with a link. Yeah. So, well, but that's a good question, because then that sets up the next thing. Well, so places I've been hanging out, I've not actually been to any of these places. Well, I guess except NYU, Paris, and here, ENS, I guess. But let's add a place. So let's add the bookstore I went to. Or actually, I'm going to add the bookstore I went to. You add whatever you want to, that I went to last night to buy that Here Be Lions book. So if you click on places.csv, you get this ugly thing here. But we remember that it's just data with name, latitude, longitude, type, and yem. So I'll start writing the name. And again, I encourage you to do your own thing here so you have an opportunity to make mistakes. Don't just copy what I'm doing. So I just type in the name and with a comma. Okay? What's the next bit of data I need? A latitude and longitude, right. So this is the $1 million question. How do we get a latitude and longitude? So we could use a geocoder, we could use all these other sorts of things, or very simply, we can just go to latlong.net, which I don't know if it's the best, but it's just easy to remember for me. Just go to latlong.net, type in Paris, and it'll dump us out into Paris, like that. Close this. And then you should do this for whatever place you want to talk about. But it should be one of those three things. Either a restaurant, it doesn't have to be a Mexican restaurant, but either a restaurant or a bookstore or a Bâtiment Vista. And so I go here, and then I scroll in. Where's that bookstore? Here it is. Did I write it that way? Yes. And then I just click here, boom. And then down here, it gives me the coordinates. Just with one click, yeah. You can do this with Google Maps too, but Google Maps doesn't give you a useful thing to copy here. It gives you, it doesn't work as well.
It gives you a little window that you have to click, then the thing
Yeah.
shows up in the corner. And then
it shows up in the search. This is just quick and dirty. I've written something that also does this, but I can't remember what URL it has. Latlong.net is much easier for me to remember.
So then you add your new place.
Yeah, so then you click in there, and then let's push this over here, and you paste it in. And it even has the comma already.
Yes.
Nice and useful. Then another comma, and then what's next?
And if I define a new category?
Then you can define a new category if you want, sure. But okay, so we'll walk through that in a second. What's the next set of data that I need?
The website.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, the category.
The type. Okay, so I write in, what do I have here? Batuniv, Restmax, and Librairie. Right?
Use the auto suggest.
Okay, yeah. Let me show how that
Because then
happened.
you don't spell
So
it
I
out.
type LIB, and it already knows that that word is in this document, so it suggests me to use it. Sorry. So you saw what happened here. Velib. Why on earth is Velib in this auto drop-down list? But where did it get Velib from? Velib isn't in this data file.
It was in something you used yesterday.
No, and it wasn't in anything I used yesterday. Well, that's why it comes up. Well, but where does it know this word from? Like, or Velib circle, and like these look like JavaScript variables. No, and these are all good guesses, but it's much simpler than that. It's because Atom looks inside the whole project, not just the file that you're currently using. So these are all defined in scripts.js. We'll get to them. So that's why they show up here. This is another reason why these kinds of things are useful, because again, it shows you the project as a whole. So it pitches out names of variables that you use elsewhere. And then the link. So that's, I think, nope. Here we go. And then paste in the link. And that's it. Now, if I save, what's that? No, you don't close with a comma. So now if I save and then reload here, and then go over to where we were. So here's NYU Paris, and here's the bookstore where I bought the book last night. And it shows up. So your place should show up, whatever it was you chose. Now, if you chose to create a new subject, a new category, you have to tell JavaScript that that category exists. So that means you have to go, so you can close places.csv, and you have to add a case. And the easiest thing is just to copy these 4 lines. So what did you add?
Museum.
A museum?
But what I get is a kind of black dot, which is not a dot.
So you would do like, you can do, well, let's just not have.
Put icon equal is book.
So book, and then you can pick whatever color you want.
Yes.
What color did you pick?
Actually, it looks like it's black.
So is it just 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0?
No, it's 0, 1, 0, 2, 4, 0, 8.
Okay, yeah, so that's not a lot of light is coming in, so it'll be very dark. Yeah, so you can use an HTML color picker to pick another color. But yeah, and so that's what you can do if you want to add a different thing. The icon we'll get to in a second. Okay? To help you with that. But let's move to the next step. So comment out these lines 94, 95, 96, or 97. And then uncomment the line starting with L marker just underneath it. Bye-bye. And then save it. And so it should look like this, lit up like this. Oh, this isn't scripts.js, sorry. Yeah, places CSV we won't mess with anymore.
It's starting 98, right?
Around 98. Like our line numbers are now a little bit out of sync. So, oh, it's L dot marker. So the stuff that's L dot circle marker, you can comment out all the way to L dot marker, and then uncomment. Okay. And then when you reload, what happens?
In Puppet, take it out to Puppet. And then what do you say?
So the marker changes, and now you should have these markers like this.
Can I ask you about indentation? Because like for some reason I think the indentation is off. If indentation is off and it gives you an error, it's not really going to do anything, right?
No, and if you set fix on save, then it'll automatically fix the indentation problems when you save.
Got it.
Yeah,
Good.
because indentation is something it can just fix in the background.
And these markers are due to the 3D.
Wow.
So this isn't D3. I'll talk about this in a second. So that's what icon is used for. So that's why we both set a color and an icon, because it says if the type is batuniv, then use this color, which is sort of red, dark red, and use the graduation cap icon. So as you can see, so circle marker has like a fill color and etc. This is using a leaflet thing that's a div icon. So it just says create the marker as just a piece of HTML, just an HTML block. And so that's what we did. We create this HTML block, and it's all that's inside this HTML block is it's an I tag. I is short for italic, and it says style color, use the color variable, and then class is FA icon, use the icon variable, okay, and then close it, and then create the size. So this is the fancy FontAwesome. It's what it's called, FontAwesome standard. So what that means is that, okay, so I'll show you font. How are we doing for time? We're doing brilliantly. Okay. So if we go to, if you go to FontAwesome.com, you just have just a jillion icons that you can search for. Like there's yeah, a lot. And so, so like for museum, so okay, so they don't have anything that they think is for a museum itself. But there can be, you can type in other stuff like, you know, so for MUS, you have icons like music or headphones, volume up, volume down. It's a very quick and easy way to get a certain amount of UI, user interface on your website. Instead of having to design your own icons, you can just use the FontAwesome icons. And the way they work is that you write, I'll show you what the HTML actually looks like. Actually, here, you don't have to follow along, you don't have to do this, but I'll show you here. You'll see this. So the little drop up down arrow on the web page that makes the card header thing open and close, that's a FontAwesome icon. And so all it is it's adding these classes that are just variables that you attach, style variables that you attach to an HTML object that converts it into that icon. Okay? So if you don't like the book icon for the book, or if you don't like the knives icon for the restaurant and you want to use something else, you know, like say you want to use the Twitter icon or something, or actually the Twitter icon's a bad example, but so you want to use a tub instead. So
And then you get the name.
you get the name, which is just bath, and it shows what it looks like. And this is what the HTML is that you would write. FAS space FA hyphen bath. And we see,
Why is it a class and not an ID?
so an ID is a unique identifier for an HTML object. A class is a family that you can apply to multiple objects. So if you, so maybe you want to have multiple play buttons on the same thing. So where am I here? So undo all this stuff and let's get rid of this. So so I change utensils here to bath, and will it work? No, no, it won't work because this is an FAS, not just a regular FA. It's a special. Well, maybe it'll work. Bath, save. Yeah. So now I have a bathtub. And then instead of down here, instead of bind pop-up, I chose bind tooltip, which means that instead of clicking on it and getting information, you can just scroll your mouse, you can hover your mouse over and get a little tooltip. Or you can do both. Bind tooltip, some text, then dot bind pop-up, some text.
Can't you replace your icon by another one?
Just for laughs, just for fun.
Where?
Oh, where? So I picked the icon here.
Yeah.
I found out what it's called,
Okay,
bath.
you found the name.
And then here, I changed this from utensils to bath.
Okay.
So you could do that for museum, for example, if you wanted to. Okay? So, let's skip the Velib thing because it's not a very clean data set anyway. So scroll down to about 164. How does, okay, right. So the web page, the project that you downloaded from GitHub, already loads in all of the icons.
Okay.
And you have to access them by using a little bit of magic. And I've already put that.
Things you said, okay, I want this corpus of icons.
Yeah, so it downloads it. Well, it does. It, like, for simplicity's sake, let's say it downloads all the pictures, right? All the icons. And then when you need a little bit of magic to know which one to use, and I've covered everything I could except for what specific icon. So everything else is already built into the script. So there, this is brittle, it breaks easily, but it also does the job here. So scroll down to 163 on scripts.js or thereabouts, and you should have another */ and /*. And so delete those 2 lines so that this lights up. This get JSON Parse GeoJSON. Okay? Now, who remembers what GeoJSON is from earlier this morning? What's GeoJSON?
It's something that puts all together. Something you
JavaScript, objects,
Yeah, it's a shapefile, except instead of being 4 files that are using, 20-year-old technology, it's 1 file using 40-year-old technology, because it's just one plain text file. And so now let's look at it to see what it looks like. So open this up so it lights up. And then, well, we might as well save and reload the page.
there's a street in it.
And I'll keep scrolling out.
So now we can see the arrondissement.
Yes.
So, it works also for the polygons.
Yep. We'll look at it in a second, and you'll see how it works. It's not magic.
Area d'arrondissement. Okay. So you inserted this shape file called area arrondissement.
Yeah.
And where do you precise where it comes from?
Okay. Well, we'll get into that in a second. So let's look at what this file looks like. So now open up Parse CSV.GeoJSON.
It is already a file.
And if you look, you can sort of get a sense of what this is. So it's the first thing is just says type. It's a feature collection, which means it's a collection of things that you put on the map, features. And the CRS line, that shouldn't be there, but it got read in. And then features is the list of features. And the feature, it's a list. You know it's a list because you have the angle bracket, the right angle bracket, right? And lists in JavaScript are things that are in brackets. Do you remember where you've seen those right angle brackets today already? In the coordinates.
Yeah.
The coordinates are open bracket, 1 coordinate, comma, 2nd coordinate, close bracket. And that's because that's how the coordinates, so just like they are here. Okay? And then, so features, type, feature, properties. And then this is where you put in the data. So all of these have, so they have this term here, L_AR, that says like 19, right? And then you come down to geometry, polygon, and then these are just all the coordinates for every little turn on each arrondissement. Every little turn. So it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay? So this is not, GeoJSON is not for human beings to look at. But you can look at it quickly and get a sense of what's going on.
Basically, you can do that with QJS or ArcGIS and take.
We'll do that in a second.
Yeah.
Or I'll show you how that can be done in a second.
You could make it historical.
So here I'm going to do a little bit of live demoing, and let's see if this works. I promised myself I wouldn't do any live demoing, but Leaflet, yeah. I just have to remind myself of the syntax, the API for GeoJSON. Style, bind, pop-up. Oh, that's easy. Oh, even easier. Okay, so if I do bind, pop-up. This might actually work. Let's see. Ha! Nice. So I just did the same thing, the bind pop-up, but remember how earlier it was just text, like HTML text that we typed in quotes? Now, instead of typing in quotes, you're running a function instead. And so what it is you create a function where the polygon, you call it layer, and then you return this LAR thing from the properties that I showed you a minute ago. And so it just says whatever that value is, make that be the text inside the pop-up. It's probably better if we do it as a tooltip, not as a pop-up. So you see?
So you added these lines.
Yeah. So these lines I just added. All of this I just added. And you should be able to add the same exact thing and it'll work. And it should work. So this is how the GeoJSON format holds information inside as a JavaScript object. So it's always just JavaScript. And if you know how to do JavaScript well, then you get really far really quickly with this. Because you can iterate on it and do all kinds of fancy things.
After layer is an equals greater than sign? Like
Yeah,
an arrow?
equals greater than sign, like a little arrow. Yeah. It's the same syntax as up here. So now let's get fancy. Not too fast or not too fancy?
Both. No, fancy is fine. It's not too fast.
Okay. So the way this is working is getJSON. So this is jQuery. GetJSON is a jQuery function that says go to the web and grab a JSON file. So this is where you would talk to an API, like what Taylor was doing with geonames. It's exactly the same thing. It says go to some server and ask it for some data. In this case, the server is our computer, and it's a file that we already made. But it could be anything. And up here, the stuff I skipped over does it with Velib data from Open Parse data. Like you can see here, constant Velib station URL. So this is where it knew Velib from, because it was in this file. So you see this long address, opendata.parsefr, API, records, blah, 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 blah. And so it just says, ask them for data. And you can do this for how many bikes are available. So that's how these websites exist. Like where you see which stations have bikes and which don't. It's because the Parisian government it makes the Velib data publicly available. And back before, 6 years ago, or 9 years ago, my God, before JCDecaux figured out that they should have their own, or Dessau, I don't know how you say it, before they figured out that they should have a website that tells you where the bikes are and aren't, other people were already using these APIs to make websites. So there were, back when Velib worked well and it was tricky to find a place to park near the river in the morning, especially if you were late to work. So what it does is it says, grab this file. And remember, of course, because it's JavaScript, it can't talk to your computer. It can only talk to a server. But our computer is running as a server right now. Grab that file and create out of it a data object that we call geodata. And then we feed that geodata object into l.geojson, which is just a leaflet command. And the leaflet command takes two things, the data and then some styling. So here you have a color, red, weight, that's how fat the line is, and then fill opacity, which is whether it's transparent or not, the fill. You can do other kinds of things too.
What is the first color in the three? Red, green, blue?
Red, green, blue, RGB.
And full. F is full.
Is the most, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then bind a tooltip just like we did, except here it's a function, not just straight text, because it's talking to that object that it's in the process of drawing and pulling data out of it. Okay? And then it adds it to the map. So each one it does in turn. Okay, so quickly in the closing minutes, sorry if this is running a little late. We're going to do 2 more things, and then we're going to go live. So the last 2 things are to open up these. Oh, this was a mistake. Okay. Oh, I messed up. Okay. So, all right. So light up this line and this line, and we'll get this error that MD isn't defined, or you might not. So we did define MD, but then we commented it out. So we just re-uncommented here, just like that. And now it shouldn't error anymore. There we go. And now I pray to the gods, and there we go. Yes?
No.
Okay.
I was just talking to my mind.
Okay.
What line is MD on?
Just do Command F to open up Find, and just type MD, and it'll jump you there.
I have 5, so which one?
The first one, it's const MD equals, just uncomment that. And so what this jQuery is doing is it's saying select the thing. So this is Sarah's question about IDs. Select the thing with the ID card header text and replace the HTML inside of it with this bit of HTML, okay? So that's showing you how to do this in HTML. And you can change that text to whatever you want. You can get rid of the strong tag. The strong tag makes things bold. You can get rid of that, or use I to make it italic. Or, you know, we can also add a bathtub. Just because we can, yeah. There we go. Now we have a bathtub there. And then here, this is a slightly fancier version of the same thing. So what this is doing is it's using an AJAX call, which is the same thing as get GeoJSON, but it's agnostic about the file. And the URL for the file is body.md. So remember that lorem ipsum markdown file that we had? That's what it's going to get. But it, again, could be masham, whatever. You know, like a markdown file on some other web page. And then if it gets it on success, if it succeeds in getting that file, turn that data into something called body markdown, and then capture the HTML with the ID of outlet card body, and render the markdown into it as HTML. This is tricky. There's not time, or it's tricky to explain what's going on. But what it's doing is, remember that markdown file that I showed you with the lorem ipsum text on it, is it's feeding it in. So this is how you can write web pages, write content in Markdown, and not have to use, not have to write HTML. So you can write in Markdown and then just have jQuery grab the Markdown files and feed them into the web page. It takes a second for it to do it, but you know, we have fast computers. All right. Everything's exciting?
Yeah.
And you're doing this versus like writing HTML, CSS, using Bootstrap, doing like conventional web building, because it's just a quicker.
So Bootstrap is already in here. This is a Bootstrap card. Like I already preloaded Bootstrap in the index.html. This is the benefit of this to me is that I find it much easier to write Markdown than HTML. That's all. And then, and yeah, because it's Bootstrap that allows this functionality to happen.
You put a Bootstrap already in it.
Yeah, Bootstrap comes preloaded.
But the
And the linter was actually complaining, you maybe didn't notice, but down at the bottom, this MD had a curly red underneath it and said, you're using a variable that you've never defined. And it was because we had commented out defining it. Okay, so now we've finished all of this, but like David mentioned, this is all only local to our computer. We can't share this map with our friends and family. So down here, it should say, there should be a little icon with like a little file and a plus minus, and it should say like 4 files or something like that, and click on that. And you should get this thing shows up. Okay, so so mine is saying to add index.html because I made a mistake, whatever. But you should have some number of files, right?
I have 2.
2 is fine. 2 is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 means that you didn't bring in Gautier, the GeoJSON file, and it also means you didn't make a mistake on index.html like I did. And actually, I'll just discard these changes to index.html. Okay. So now let's close these guys out. And now remember, Soviet Socialist Communist Party. So save, stage, commit, and push. So we've been saving all along, but now we have to stage. So you can just click stage all, and it's a workflow that goes downwards. It cascades downwards. So they jump from unstaged to staged. And you can do it file by file, or like that. You can just hit return and it jumps in, or however you want to do it. Stage all works fine. So yellow means that the file has been changed. Okay. And that's true. We added a place, and we also commented and uncommented stuff on scripts.js. Green means it's a new file. Okay, and red would mean you're deleting a file, if we were deleting a file, which we're not. Yeah, stage all. So unstage all, stage all. And actually, if you click on the file, like you see, when I click here, it opens up this little window with unstaged changes that shows the change in green. Or if I click on scripts.js, it shows what I deleted in red and what I added in green. Like that. And then I stage all the changes, right? Then I type a fun commit message. And I do commit to master. You need to type a commit message. It doesn't let you not type one.
There's a little, I've never known, what's amend?
Amend is if you make a mistake on a commit and you need to add, like you forgot to add
like
something.
Commit, but some sort of like
Yeah.
direction to
Yeah, there's a very funnily named website that teaches you about these kinds of things called ohshitgit.com, and because it is very easy to, you know.
I don't think I can use that with my students.
Most of what we do with Git is not very complicated, so we don't typically have a lot of use for this. But here it is. Oh shit! I committed and immediately realized I need to make one small change, like if you put a typo in the commit message or something like that. Okay. So committed to master, and then there's one more step. SSCP, save, stage, commit, push. So then you should have a button down here that you can push. Click on it, and it should push.
Where was that? I think it's, oh, I see.
At the bottom.
You have 2. What? I mean, yeah. Push.
It's not going to work for me because I made a mistake, but it should work for you. It should ask, when you click push, it'll probably ask you for your GitHub information, and you can just type it in. And your username and password.
I didn't even get that little push.
Did you type in a commit mess?
There's just so many commands at the bottom.
Okay, yeah. It's an up arrow. It's an up arrow, yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe it doesn't say push.
Because I've got a bunch of.
I don't get like I don't find the push
It won't let you push until you've committed.
Okay, so first I commit, and then I push.
And you have your commit here. I made a map like this from 2 minutes ago.
How is it possible that they write I made?
I wrote that.
You wrote that.
Yeah, you have to write in a
You
commit
do
message.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to work if you don't write a message. Like you'll just click on commit and think it's committing, but it doesn't. It's just a dead button that doesn't do anything.
Unable to
What's that?
commit.
I get an error message which says unable to commit. Please tell me who you are.
Okay, yeah. Oh, so in Windows, yes. So in the solution in Windows is a little bit complex. No. But I have it written out. So if you go to a website that doesn't exist in public yet, plaintext.org. And then you just click on any of these buttons, and then go to installers and do install Git. And if you click on the little window, on the Windows icon, it'll give you all the instructions to install Git on your computer, and you have to do these last 2 steps at the bottom in Windows, otherwise it will not work. So you need to download this Git Bash program.
How did you get this?
Yes, so pushes it to GitHub, and now if you go to that URL, so remember we have localhost, and then we also have this one. So it's not going to work for me because the push didn't work because complicated. And if you reload this, you should have all your work should be online. And that's a URL you can send to friends, family, or your cat. That's it.